This morning, Jessica and Pablo will present a project that really piqued my interest when I saw it, when I was a member of the jury of the Hublot Prizes given by Immersion CMP, an organization that contributes to development of digital skills for guidance counselors in colleges and universities. So I saw this project and I thought it was very interesting. So I'd like to first, before going any further, present Jessica and Pablo. So Jessica, who is in Bogota right now, she's a prof at the language school at UCAM, specialized in pedagogy of second languages. She has a doctorate in linguistics, applied linguistics, and has a passion for teaching Spanish. She is curious by nature, innovative. She likes exploring digital pedagogical tools to enrich her work and offering great experiences of an immersive nature to her students. That's what the webinar will talk about today. Jessica is trying to create environments that stimulate learning, that favorize success and motivation for the students. Pablo Castel, he has 15 years. Are you okay, Pablo? Yes. Okay. 15 years of experience in design, educational design, and digital projects, and in training in colleges, universities, and corporate settings. He has a master's degree in information and communication, as well as a master's in digital communication and project management. Pablo is a pedagogue, a wonderful teacher, and a great professional. He is a project lead at Carrefour Innovation at UCAM. He is developing the skills for teachers and using technology to improve education, integrating digital and technological pedagogical strategies that are innovative. So have a great webinar, everybody. I will now hand it over to our speakers. Thank you. So I will begin by sharing my screen. So thank you for this opportunity to present the pedagogy of languages, a 360 view with artificial intelligence with AI. So to organize this presentation, we thought of explaining this in 3 steps. First, sharing with you the origins, the genesis of the project, the context, the logistical and pedagogical challenges, the first paths, the first starts of answers and alternative solutions that are flexible and innovative. Then Pablo will talk about the process with the methodology we used that consists in many steps: techno-pedagogical analysis, design, development of content, implementation in the environment, and evaluation of the process, as well as a conclusion with looking at some opportunities and important points and the current projects that will be coming up. So if we begin with the origins of the project, it's a project that was born at the language school at UCAM, where I teach Spanish classes. So in my classes, Spanish 1000, the intro class, I want to integrate exploratory pedagogical activities for people learning Spanish and Spanish culture. And so Latino culture, I invited the students to have direct contact with the culture. So the possibility of doing visits when there are expos or expositions or things that cover Latin culture. So we will begin with these experiences in 2024. And as you can see, the planning for a visits for a language school is complex. I have to count on the availability and participation of the students for field trips, and sometimes there have challenges with transportation. They're not always available. And one of the main challenges is there's not a lot of exposure and expositions and things that show what I want to showcase in the classroom. The are a bit too high level for the students, and the other ones, those are destined for people who speak Spanish, they don't contain a lot of resources for non-Spanish people, non-Spanish speakers. So uh, we the content is limited to one visit only, and we have to do everything in one visit, and they can't have the full experience that way. So the first part of the answer for us, we worked in working and setting up a partnership to create virtual immersive visits. So the pictures you see here is an expo at the Musée des Beaux-Arts, and they was talking about the Colombian era, the splendors of the uh, pre-Columbian era and the indigenous people of the area. So we said, okay, we have to capture pictures, audio, video, and have an enriching virtual experience to be able to reproduce something similar. The immersive experience, you can facilitate access to cultural content. So what happened, the management of rights and broadcast of all this stuff is very long and complicated to obtain intellectual rights to it, so we could not obtain these rights to present this material. So I spoke to Pablo, and we thought about this together. Maybe we can have an alternative solution, a flexible, innovative solution in creating a pedagogical tool that could integrate learning activity and learning languages. And this way, we can call on AI, generative AI, to be able to create the content of art expos on the culture of Latin countries. And this allowed us to circumvent some obstacles, and we could then have a coherent content adjusted to the objectives of the activity in the classroom. So here I hand it over to Pablo for the next step. Thank you, Jessica. You're the one who share the screen. We wanted to show you what it looks like. Thank you, Jessica. We wanted to do this because when I talk about the whole process and the different steps we went through, people have trouble imagining what the result would be. So, in our last presentations, we started to give an example right away of the activity and what it looks like so people could better understand. So you know the ADI process. It's a process that's very popular and very well known in building pedagogical educational materials and all kinds of didactic material as well. We always start with a techno-pedagogical analysis and what we have done in defining the different language skills that were developed through these pedagogical tools, and all of this following the objectives that Jessica set out, because she's the teacher here. So it's the beginner level, and we determine the skills and align them with the objectives. Then we try to determine the level of language skills of the students, and we also determine the possibilities and the different tools that our teams could use. So before starting, we really did a pre-analysis to know what were the different means that we can use and what we can do with this project. And finally, we tried to identify the different constraints and obstacles with the rights to this material in terms of production of images and sound and multimedia. And finally, where would we put this in terms of content that can be consumed? But it's relatively simple to produce, but there's nothing extraordinary there, but it still has some complexity in the process. So you can go to the next slide. This is the analysis phase. I'm gonna go through this pretty quickly. There's a document that is much more detailed where we cross-reference the objectives with the skills and the different levels of language speakers. So these analyses, once they were done, we did this with Jessica, and these tools, analysis tools, allows us to have an overview of our objectives and the skills we are seeking to build with this tool. It's a Word file that I can share with you. I'm not going to go through the whole thing here. So we've done the analysis. There's the design phase after that, and that's where we build the scenario, the roadmap. So we determine the general components of the process, and we know that the tools that we are building is not just a virtual visit, but there's also you've seen that there's also a guide with which the person person uses to guide them through the visit. So we will use this in all activities of evaluation related to this tool. So there's the virtual visit, there's the guide, and also the form, the survey, so people can give us feedback with regards to the abilities that they've developed, the learning experience, the user experience, and so we can get feedback on all of that, and if the pedagogical objectives are met, and if the students reach their objectives. So we also will structure the scenario, the roadmap of the virtual visit. So how many rooms, how many characters, avatars, what is the objective, what is the narrative, what is the subject, and then is there anything specific with regards to subject matter? And then we talk with Jessica and we determine if it'll be an Afro-Colombian artist, for example, who does painting, who does sculpture, who has certain characteristics with regards to their culture. All of this is defined before using the tools, the AI tools. We define all of this, what we call pedagogical design, the design process. Then we do the same thing for the visit. So the visit guide, we have a scenario, we have in the guide, we define what will be there. There will be an introduction of the activity. There will be the learning objectives that we will show the student, share with the student. There's also clear instructions with how to do the visit. So first you go through this guide, and then you will go around a circuit, 30 minutes, and explore everything there. Then once you've done your visit, what's the next step? Well, then there's a form that the students have to fill out to show that they've done the visit, that they understood what was taught, and can produce some content in Spanish related to that. So after this design phase, we also will determine all the elements relative to the evaluation. So in this case, this is a first project, and it's a pilot project with Jessica. We had decided that this would be an activity or a tool that would be used for formative evaluation. And there were some bonus points that would be given in the class for people who used the evaluation tables. We were working on other models as well, and working on these models, just to finish this section, is that in working these models, we also think that it will go further, and we can use it for formative evaluation. So I think that I shared this already. You can have access to this scenario. There's everything in there, this treatment. So if I go through the whole thing, it's going to take a lot of time. So here, the development of content development. So Jessica put some pressure on me changing the slides, but we're okay. Yes. I yes, development of content. So content building, analysis. We think about what we want to build as far as content. We define the scenario, create all the different elements and what we want to produce. Everything we want to produce and the results we're looking for. So before we start development, we generate some text relative to the guide and the story around the visit. So the scenario is an Afro-Colombian woman of a certain age, and then we use these tools and produce an avatar of the person. So make an image of a woman of this and that characteristic, and we get the result, which is rendered. It was DALL that we were using in this case. But there's also text that we will ask for and try to generate, because we want to have the portrait of this person. So give a more 3D representation, and instead of just talking about each element of the visit, we're asking ChatGPT to give us a text in Spanish that introduces the person. So starting there, there's this kind of introductory language and some explanations with the different pieces of art that we will share in this visit. So the artwork is first of all generated by DALL with a basic prompt. Then we ask the system to give us an explanation that's a bit more detailed and with a bit more complexity, always in respecting the language level of the learners, and then the content will be validated by Jessica. We'll also create narratives and automatic dialogue. So we use a tool called VoiceOver Maker. It's a tool that allows us to create voiceovers automatically. So what we do is we create dialogues, we create content, we put this into the system, and it will produce automated voiceovers for us. And then starting with that, we will go for podcasts. We start to do Canva podcasts. We use Canva that you probably already know. And on Canva, what we do is we can do a simulation of these podcasts. And finally, what we will do is integrate all this into H5P, Moodle, and Panopto. Panopto is our system for video. So all these simulations of podcasts are in the institutional YouTube, and then we will be able to put them into the visit, and the person that consults the visit will be able to play the videos that will go through. So we'll be able to play the videos, and so it doesn't work as well in Moodle. We're a bit more limited to not have an activity that was too heavy for the software, for the platform. So yes, continue. So here, this is the implementation phase and the environment. So the environment being Moodle, it's our learning environment. It's the environment we use to test things. We use a tool called H5P that allows us to create the visit in 360 view. We put the images up, and then we just added the different levels, the different rooms. As you've seen in this example, there's a main room, and starting from there, we'll be able to get into the different vestibules, different rooms. And with these tools, we've produced accompanying documents. So this accompanying document tool is the visit guide that we uploaded in H5P documentation. What we've done then is we put all of this in Moodle, and Jessica then in her class would present the visit, present the tools, and present the different elements related to these tools, and she had to build a framework on how to use the tools, and was related with the classroom activities, how they related to the classroom activities. So thank you. If I go through the process, the evolution of the tool, the evaluation of the tool, the satisfaction of the students is the most important thing for us, and we want to know their point of view. So to have a survey about their experience and the navigation through the visit, the personal experience, visual experience, and the pedagogical impact. We also wanted to look at the technical performance of our tools like Moodle. And so if it was comfortable, if navigation was easy, fluid, accessible, and all of this, of course, to look for continuous improvement, to be able to, if there were exercises that were too difficult in terms of language, in terms of navigation, but also the technical aspects, like Pablo had described, the different tools that we use in the visit and in the guide to be able to optimize the experience for the future cohorts. So here on screen, we can see some personal points of view of these students. And I really want to share this because there are objectives that are of an intercultural nature. There are linguistic objectives. For example, some expositions that were very moving and interesting for the students, and works of art that really touch on the identity connection to the land. And our students have said that the exposition was very interesting, more interesting than I expected. So there were some expectations at the outset, what the expositions would be, and the students really enjoyed it. And they said they believe that the AI is well used in this context and contributes to learning and in many different ways. That's well described by the students, and also to help them to progress through their education and to increase their vocabulary comprehension. And so we found that this feedback was very useful and helpful for us. Then now we go to the conclusion, and we can say that the activity was very well received. The experiences were overwhelmingly positive and gives the students the possibility of doing this at their own pace as many times as they want, to be able to understand the linguistic structure and content, and the limited access to this visit for the students, especially those who were not physically present in Montreal and could benefit from watching this on many times. So as a language teacher, to enrich the cultural content is very important, and to do it in a different way than in a traditional classroom is very interesting for me, and the possibility of sharing this and using this for other types of applications of activities of the same nature. So I will now hand it over to Pablo. Yes. Thank you. So here the opportunities related to AI, but if we what we pulled out of these projects is it allows us to have a certain pedagogical valorization to enrich the pedagogy and to enrich the content, to produce content in a way that is relatively quick, content that is easily adaptable. So of course there's the question of the delays of the production time. Often we have this issue is we wanted to do an exposition with real people, because often people will ask us this question, but what always say is that the Art Expo was just an excuse to be able to, it was just a vehicle to allow the person to immerse themselves in the culture, the language. And so it wasn't the Art Expo that was the objective. It was just a means to an end to create didactic material that was interesting, that facilitates the appropriation of the content, the pickup of the content, and favorize the comprehension of certain notions that are important, like interculturality, in Spanish especially. So in using these tools, we were able to enrich the pedagogy, enrich the educational experience. And we could have done this with many different activities, but now we wanted to experiment, to go off the trail a little bit and have something pretty quick turnaround that is interesting for the students with a certain degree of immersivity. And of course, this is something we should have said and we forgot. All of the content that we have produced, there's always a process of validation by me and by Jessica, of course, from the linguistics angle and the language teaching angle. So when the content doesn't correspond with what we're looking for, there is a process to adapt it. So we don't need to do 2 or 3 prompts to get the result. We do a first pass and then we work on the content. Of course, we had the foundation to work from, and then Jessica could add to it. So Jessica, if you can just take over here. The question of accessibility as well. So we made the content more accessible. That was the objective from the outset for all the teachers and students, and without constraints of time and space. They can consult it at any time, and it doesn't need a physical physical resources. There's no obstacles. People just connect to Moodle, and consult and look at the content. There's also the question of creativity and flexibility. Of course, that offered us a lot of new possibilities to build scenarios, to build things with AI. If we would have had to do it in a real time, the old-fashioned way, it would have been much longer, and this way we can go much faster and much further and use these tools and circumvent limiting factors in the classroom. So this is these are the points to pay attention to for a good integration. So the things we looked at when we started this project in 2024 and 2020 or late 2023, we had in mind this usage of a responsible and ethical nature. We want to use AI ethically, and there were some issues that we saw from the beginning with ethics and transparency. There's some questions about cultural bias, about the environment, because an over usage can be problematic for the environment. So we always have kept that in mind, and we tried to respect the pedagogical framework, relevance. We checked all of that, validated everything, and it was really the both of us who participated in the project, and the collaboration was very important in regards to creating the content. There's also transparency. We never hid the content and where it came from and that it was produced with AI. We always revealed the process, and in the visit there's a reference that says that this was produced with AI, and we never hid that. We never hid if it was AI or not. And ethics and equity, we really were paying attention to that from the beginning, because often what can happen is a person of African descent, an Afro-Colombian person, a woman, the risk of bias, cultural or social bias, is huge. So in these cases, we really were careful, but we did a validation. So, of course, the results we obtained, sometimes we would say that it's a bit on the edges, but we, in the role of validating all of this and make sure that it follows the norms, standards of equity and ethics. And so also data protection and private information, we put this in Moodle, and there's no over usage, and nobody's going to connect to talk with an AI or the robot. It's the content that really matters, and in the didactic material, and the interaction is done with content that exists already, on which we have a lot of control. I think that ends my part. Jessica, if you want to just talk about the coming projects and what we're working on now. Yes, with great pleasure. So, of course, as I said from the beginning, there's a strong interest to spread this to other languages in UQAM and other institutions as well. So there's an interest for Italian, German, and French with each development, and we see what it'll take. But the creation of an accompanying guide, so to reproduce the experience in other contexts, like different communication styles or methods. It could be a feast or an evening with gastronomy as a theme, and so in Spanish as well. But we could spread this to other classes, to tourism classes or social science classes. We can adapt this to any kind of course or content, and we're trying now to train teachers on these digital tools, and that's what we're doing now. And at the same time, sharing this presentation and sharing our experience with different platforms and in different conferences. And we shared some of this on television as well, and what we created with other institutions. We shared this on screens as well, and what we created with other institutions. So thank you. That brings our presentation to an end. Thank you for your attention today. I will stop sharing my screen now. Wonderful project, Jessica and Pablo. I was very interested in it from the beginning, and now I see that it requires a lot of course, it requires a lot of skill on an educational level to teach languages, a specialist in linguistics. Those skills are required, but also it requires a lot of techno-pedagogical resources and skills. So I see that there's a lot of AI tools. There were a lot of tools used to put this together. Do you think it would be possible to think of something similar that will be a little bit less rushed in time, or taking a lot of time? It's huge what you built. Yes, thank you for your question. Well, we are thinking about all of that, and among the points that we had mentioned is the creation of an accompanying guide that allows the teachers to realize this activity on their own. Because yes, it's true that it's a lot of resources and tools that are needed, but they're pretty simple. I would have loved to show you, but I thought that we wouldn't have enough time, and so we skipped over it very quickly. But when I talk about these tools, this one is PowerPoint. Canva is a tool that is very user-friendly. You come in and there's all kinds of easy instructions, and they guide you, and you could use it pretty easily after a while. Yes, but you use this every day, and you're a techno-pedagogue. Yes, but we've already done the experience, Jessica. We've done some training in Peru, and in Peru I already had people, some teachers, and they not very technologically advanced people that were sometimes not too familiar with technology, but were still able to do most of the content, produce content of this type. So to answer your question, there's a possibility we'll have an accompanying guide that will be available for everybody, and then we have to be accompanied to simplify, but it's not something complex. It looks like it sometimes, but it's not. Especially an experience like this one. This one was longer to do because we were discovering and learning about the process. But now where we are, I think it's the case, Jessica, we're already working on the next project, on a similar project around gastronomy, and things are going a lot faster. Yes. So it's very aware of my role as a teacher. So the fact that there's a guide that is very detailed for the teachers in Spanish or Italian, or it will save them a lot of time, but we will always work with the Carrefour, and so it's great. There's Philippe Gagné, who's asking the following question. Did AI or will AI give in the future some feedback to the students on their written submissions, for example, on their essays? Yes, that's interesting. Why not? Maybe if we seek to develop other types of skills, more targeted and language classes, we can maybe submit some essays from the students and see how AI corrects them, and maybe compare and do an auto analysis. And I find that sometimes we do this in comparing the production between students, and it could be another angle that we can take with this activity. Yes, it's something that we had analyzed and looked at in the first iteration of the project, and which we didn't want to go right away. because we wanted to have the control of the content first and see what is produced, what the student will work on, and what they will give back to us. So I think what they will return to us. So we'll see more and more systems that would allow us to interact directly with people, but there's a lot of questions with regards to that, about the control we would have over the process, because if we don't have a good framework for interaction, it could give all kinds of answers. It could sometimes hallucinate and give mistakes, especially for people who have less experience or who are beginners. So when I talk to a bot or a system that interacts with me, I am in control. I can speak in Spanish and I can see what the AI is doing wrong, or if it's a higher level or not strong enough. Or so when we do this on the student side, for the students it could be a bit more risky when they do it, but it's an avenue that we could eventually add or explore in the for the next ones. But for the next virtual visits, we don't only have that, but we have other types of evaluation activities, not necessarily directly interacting with the AI, but it's an avenue we can explore for sure. We've already thought about it. Well, listen, thank you to both of you. I really enjoyed it, and I see that this is giving rise to a lot of other cool projects. So thank you and congratulations again. Thank you to all the participants. You were very attentive and interested, I'm sure, and I'm sure that you have learned a lot and found it very enriching. So I wish everybody a wonderful lunch, a wonderful end of the day. Thank you, Pablo and Jessica. I think we will see you guys in next May for the conference on immersion. We will see you soon, and thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. See you soon. Goodbye.